Hi, welcome to Agsolutely Fabulous. My name is Gillian Fennell, also known as Station Mum 101. I love everything about agriculture, especially the people and especially communicating about what makes Australian ag so special.
And I'm Katja Williams, a beef, cattle and cropping farmer, and I love all things ag, and I'm also known as the ultimate farm wife. Together, we are Agsolutely Fabulous, and we are talking all things agriculture beyond the headlines.
And we can't wait to give our opinion to you, and we hope you enjoy it.
So let's get into today's episode. Welcome back to another episode of Agsolutely Fabulous. It's episode 72, and I'm here talking with Robin in the studio today. We are going to be talking about navigating global changes. We're also going to be talking about the needs of aging parents and the financial year. Always ends up in winter. What do we need to know? Robin, please introduce yourself and all the hats that you wear.
Thank you, and this is very exciting for me. I am Robin Verrall. I'm a farmer. We are beef and lamb producers. I'm an author. I'm a publisher. I sit in Skills Commission. I sit on the board for gender equity in South Australia. We're part of the committee that's going to roll out the last of the recommendations of the Royal Commission against family and sexual domestic violence in South Australia. And I wear a whole lot of other hats as well. But this is one of the most exciting things that's happened to me because I haven't been on a podcast for so long and I love listening to this one. So now I'm going to be on it. So I'm going to have to listen to myself.
Robin, we thought we'd sit down and talk a little bit about navigating global changes. It almost feels as if the world's currently going crazy again. It's definitely not the first time in our lifetime that we've seen these changes happen. You suggested the topic. We're also going to cover prepping. How much do we need to prep? Like, where are we going? What do we need to do? What are we missing? So, Robin,
there would be preppers out there that have done their homework.
Yeah.
Did we really learn from COVID? We're all sitting comfortably and then the world blows up into shit and through no fault of our own, and here we are. We're just victims of all these people. So I just found it astounding that from my point of view of empathy and advocacy and women, that they can go and keep doing this to us unchecked. And now we're in a situation where some people are choosing petrol, fuel, car fuel over food. Like, how is that okay? And I know as farming wives and things, we have pantries that would embarrass some of the supermarkets. If you don't have it, then you're bad. But how do we navigate this now? Like, what is the world turning into from a point of view that it's happening so far away, and yet here we are suffering the consequences of this?
Yeah, I love that you've brought up the farmer pantry, because even my sisters and I grew up on farm, so we knew what the staples looked like, because we wouldn't go grocery shopping every day. You'd sort of do your monthly grocery shop and then you might do a top up on that. And now that, you know, so a lot of my friends, they all live in the cities, they will literally go grocery shopping either every night for what they need for lunch and dinner, or they might do a weekly grocery shop for everything that they need. That's so different to what we're used to. So I think that also builds into what we did see in COVID and what we did see when fuel prices and some of the more recent historical events happened, where all of a sudden there was missing gaps in the grocery stores for a lot of pantry staples and a lot of that panic buying. So instead of panic buying, I thought we could talk about, well, what do we have in a pantry that is usually a staple in a farming pantry that's always there, that maybe some of our other listeners can think about? Do I have those backups in the pantry? So when it does go pear-shaped, whether it's COVID or World War III or whatever it is that's happening, they're okay in the immediate future. It won't last them weeks or months, but in the immediate future.
Yeah, I still have a battery backup landline and a battery backup radio. in my pantry. So we can plug that in should we need it. But I think in this day and age, we're having to look at spare plugins and chargers and all of those things. But when you come to staples, everything is labelled. So I have additional flour and I have additional long life milk and just those basic staples, or even cereals that I will put into plastic storage containers so that you don't get moths and don't open your pantry one day and things fly at you, and make them mouse proof. And I literally work with that, and being meat producers, meat isn't an issue, but it would be if we lost power. Just having some of those ready-made meals, and you can just add water to, whether you can heat it on a barbecue or heat it on an open fire or whatever it is. And that's one of the things I always keep in there, some gas and a little cooker, so that if we don't have power, I can boil the kettle. I can to do that with the gas. So they're my staples that live there. And my husband calls it his shelf. I'm not allowed to touch his shelf. So he has the coffee, the tea, like the tins of spaghetti, because he won't let me have baked beans there because he won't eat them. So I have to have them on different shelves. So they're the basic things that you can have, that are not only they're quick meals when you want to do them, they actually can last long. And I think I've got something in the cupboard that used to belong to my mother-in-law that was dated in 1978 or something, that should we ever have to open it, it probably needs to be done under nuclear clothing for the smell. There's a whole guy on Insta, and he's Nick Fox Radio, and it's the millennial inheritance, where people are leaving them. Like, there's one in America, a 40-foot container they found buried that had over 600 cookie jars. Hopefully we don't have that sort of craziness here, but then, like, what do we do? What do we do? We're out of the country. I mean, we're 100K, 110K round trip to get anything. So going to the shops on a daily basis is not something that I would do even living in the city. I just find shopping boring. But I also don't meal prep. I don't write a menu and cook like some of my friends do. And it's like, just pull it out of the freezer. No, can't I just leave everything shoved in there and try and guess what it is? Pull it out.
Ready-made. So navigating the global changes, we've talked about the storage and the prepping and some of the things that we would have as farmers that some people haven't already thought about. But on top of that, what do you think we should be doing to navigate the changing world?
That's a really tough question. I think right now for children, it's the comfort of it's not here yet. Like, it's not here. It is over there, which is a really broad, crazy way to think about it. But having got grandchildren, we're shielding them from the news. We're shielding them from that sort of talk, because it is something that we all need to be aware of. Because financially, like, everyone went backwards in COVID, and I believe that we're heading that way now through, yet again, no fault of our own. And our politicians don't know what to do, because they're the same as us. They don't know what to do because we don't know what to do. And I think we just need to be a little kinder. And Adelaide at the moment, having done a meeting this morning, I jumped on the train, but that's not unusual for me to do that. But the train was packed. And I think we have to learn again, probably the hardest thing we all have to learn is we're going to be standing in each other's space again after being told for years, keep your distance, keep your distance. And you can still see it when, it wasn't me, thank God, when someone sneezed this morning, everybody on the train started leaning, and I'm doing it now, leaning away from that person. We're going to have to go back to getting used to that. And I really liked COVID because I have a lot of people that want to give me a hug and a kiss, and sometimes I just go put my hands up and go like, no, not today, not today. And I think that's going to be the hardest thing we're all going to have to get used to again, is being in close contact, in close quarters.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so we thought our second topic tonight would be about the changing need of aging parents, because whether you are in an urban setting, whether you're on farm, this is something that is so prevalent that we are all needing to prepare for. And whether you are in your 20s and 30s, or whether you're in your 40s, 50s, 60s, like our parents will inevitably age and they will inevitably need help. And we thought, because we're heading into the end of autumn, heading into winter, there are so many things that we need to be prepping, not only for ourselves, which goes in with our first topic, but also for our parents who are aging. So, Robin, what is something that is at the forefront of your mind at the moment?
With winter comes really big changes for older people. It really does, because a lot of them like being out in the sun. They wear light clothes. And if you're a woman, as you get older, you don't want to put layers on. But we start planning that they're not going to plan. So if they're on farm, like, have they got enough heating? And most of them, we need to provide them with wood, and then we need to provide them with kindling, because they become a little bit too old to make it into kindling. And just making sure that their like basic daily needs are met to the point where heating is vital. And same again, food, because it is easy for the older people, and my parents, I know, and my parents-in-law, sandwiches at night have been good because it's just easy to do in the heat. But now in winter, that's not as nice. Like, you want those comfort foods. So if I'm doing something in a slow cooker, but I'm preparing them in smaller size containers now, because like, you could just give them one and they'd sort it out. But as the older they get, the harder it is for them to manipulate that. And my parents have had to in the city, and neither of them drive anymore. So once it comes to winter, and watching that a couple of years ago with my parents, we really need to be on top of, do they really need to drive on a wet day if you've got a dirt road? Or if they're just driving to the shops, across a highway to get to the shops, we really need to be aware that that's probably not something that they should keep going, even though they say that it is their independence. And making sure, if they are in an art group, or they, like my mother's in a book thing, and making sure that there's somebody there that can pick them up and drop them off, or just having that touch point. And my father stopped using mobile, or he didn't even start using mobile phones. My mum is just starting not to like her mobile phone. So just starting to plan this winter, that once it gets dark and once it gets cold, where is she? How am I going to stay in touch? And just making sure that we have that connection, because it really is about connection. And I've met mum's neighbours, and I'm one of 6, but we're spread all around the country. So making sure that if they notice anything, to give us a call, which they do. So I just think we just need to be mindful on how we don't age well. Once we get to about 40 or 50, you suddenly start realising that when you're 30, or even when you're 40, really, I'm not going to be that old. And it's just not a thing, is it? It's just not a thing. And my mum and dad are the same, and they're like, my father has dementia, and I had to take him somewhere the other day, and he's pretty good still. They're still living independently. How old are you? He said 54. And I'm like, really? That's younger than me, Dad. And gave his birth date again. And how old are you? 54. And I'm like, Dad, you're 85, mate. So you stay in your mind at a certain age, I'm sure. So, yeah, I think we have to be mindful that coming into winter, things change for them, and falls happen, and slippery surfaces. And so, yeah, I'm quite, and have been for the last few years, that we have to pick up the slack a little bit more than perhaps we want to, really.
Yeah, no, I think that's really important. When we were talking on the Ultimate Farm Wife episode 108, we were talking about making sure you know your community, making sure you know your neighbours. And I think definitely when it comes into looking after the needs of our aging parents as well, we need to be not only just focusing on our immediate community and neighbours, but we need to be also meeting their community and neighbours, so that if they don't have a phone, or they don't want to use it anymore, that you've still got touch points to get in contact with them. I think that's a really important point. It's definitely something that I wouldn't have thought about if my parents had moved from where I grew up. So yeah, very lucky to still have their friends and family around them where they are at the moment. So yeah, also, that was really great to bring to the forefront of the mind, especially as it's getting colder and darker and wetter. And also, yeah, that heat and food and water is so important. to be keeping on top of and to keeping mental space for them, because especially if they do have dementia and stuff like that, it's not becoming a priority for them, or they're not remembering if they've eaten. And if they don't feel hungry, they're not going to eat or drink.
Yeah.
And I think something else in there is getting on top of their medications. And that's really hard to do when they do want to keep that independence and they do want to keep that sense of privacy, but knowing what medications they're taking and helping organize it for them as well. Or if they won't let you organize it, having a chat to the chemist as well about putting it in blister packs and things like that for them, so that it's a bit easier to manage. And trying to see if they can do a couple of weeks at a time instead of actually doing a week's supply at a time as well, especially going into winter, and especially as we've talked just about the whole world changing at the moment, making sure you've got those backups.
Yeah, and I think the conversation of moving medication from them doing it into the blister pack is almost as hard as you shouldn't be driving conversation. And that's a whole other topic I can talk on another day. But I eventually took my mum and dad into the chemist and said, and I went to the chemist privately and told him that I was having trouble and where I live and, 3 hours away. And I said, can you accidentally, if I drop in all their scripts, make up their blister packs? So he accidentally did that for 2 weeks, and they're like, what's this? And I'm like, I wonder if the chemist has mucked it up. Maybe the doctor sent the scripts to the chemist, and we never looked back from that point. And now that dad is in his dementia stage, he's actually not even managing that. But having that security that mum can go you haven't opened your little parcel today. So, but your chemists and your doctors are going to work with you, but we have to be mindful that coming into winter and any time with them, that there are levers you can pull, and I'm happy to talk about that with anybody else behind the scenes without it overstepping the mark and taking away their privacy and taking away their independence. But if you're concerned, there are ways of doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. So guys, you can find Robin on the socials. You can also find her over on LinkedIn. I'm going to add them into the show notes. And as I've mentioned previously, we've also had a chat about many of the other hats that Robin wears over on the Ultimate Farm Wife, episode 108. I will link that in the show note. We talk about the books that she's co-authored, the publishing company that she now has, and her 2 books which are coming out this year in 2026. I will link those in the show notes as well, but I do highly recommend going over and listening to the Ultimate Farm Wife episode, where we also get to find out about the start of Robin's journey into farming and moving to the farm. So thank you so much for joining us tonight, Robin. Any pearls of wisdom you'd love to leave us with?
Sure. I always leave with a couple, and that is find what you do and do it on purpose. But the answer is always no if you don't ask the question. But if you can't find a seat at the table, contact me and I'll make another table.
Oh, I love that. I love that last one. That's my favorite.
And I do that. I'm more than happy to have people that I don't know sit at my table if they're anywhere that I am, and I will get another table. I think we have to hold each other up, and it is invaluable to have women's voices in ag in every room, that men and women are making decisions for us without us.
Robin, we could definitely talk for many, many more hours, and no doubt we will have you back on the podcast in a few months' time to just check in, see where everything's up to, and more of those pearls of wisdom. But until then, be safe. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you for joining us on Agsolutely Fabulous. If you've been listening along and enjoying all this content, which I assume you have, you've gotten this far, then you might also like Katja's other podcast. It's the Ultimate Farm Wife podcast. And I'm going to play the intro for you right now. Welcome to the Ultimate Farm Wife podcast. On this channel, we're going to be discussing all things marrying a farmer, moving to the land, and becoming integrated with a family farming operation. Whether you're moving to the farm for the first time or whether you're moving back into a family farming operation, we discuss the ins and the outs of all of it. So let's jump into today's episode.